Hey there. It's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the comment, thanks. Wednesday, July 22nd. Sarah had a struggle getting through the day. She felt that she made no real progress in PT and wondered if it would be less embarrassing just to use a wheelchair when she went back to high school and not even try to walk. "They're just going to pity me either way," she muttered. "Do you really love me, Mark?" she asked on the way back, "or do you just pity me?" I got angry and defensive. Would I be here dressed in a blue skirt and a frilly blouse if it was just out of pity? Get beyond the self-pity, kid. You can have a life if you want to, and you know it. Now I am risking total embarrassment here for you, so quit discounting my motives, okay? She looked up and backward from her wheelchair. She gave me a sly grin. "You mean you don't like to dress this way? I thought yesterday you were just in this for the clothes." "Sorry, love. Chemo this afternoon was rough on her, too. We both miss Amanda. Her series ended last week. At least she could cheer up the waiting room for us. Wendy and her mom were there, but we don't relate much. She and her mother pretty much stay to themselves. Wendy is a lot sicker than most of the kids at Hope Haven, and it looks like she might have to go back into the hospital full-time. When we got back from chemo, Sarah was feeling rotten and just went to bed. I took one of my old Star Trek movie videos down to the living room and watched Kirk zap Klingon. Mrs. Verdugo walked through. "How are things going, Annie? Your sister didn't look too good today." "Rough day for both of us, I'm afraid. Sometimes I think I can solve all of her problems just by being here for her and being her own personal cheerleader. It isn't that simple, I guess. I can't just zap the bad feelings and the depression and discouragement with a phaser and make them go away." "No," she said, "I guess not. Even when she has rotten days, though, she knows that you're here for her and that you love her. She's the age where she should just be worrying about getting her license or how a new hairdo might look, and instead she's dealing with being crippled and worrying if her life-threatening disease will come back. It's no wonder she feels overwhelmed sometimes. For the most part, though, I know she has the spunk to make it. She knows she's important to you and her family, and to her boyfriend, I guess. Are you sure he's still there for her, by the way? I thought that even with him working full-time that he'd be by at least on a weekend." "Mark loves her more than you imagine. He won't give up on her any more than I would," I answered. "Besides, they talk quite often." Thursday, July 23rd. Sarah Beth felt a little better today, but she was still frustrated with her lack of progress in PT. She wanted to make the transition to using a cane instead of the walker, but she isn't strong enough yet. She took a few falls trying. Thank heavens for the mat. I was wearing my bandana skirt again, hoping it would cheer her up. Since we had the afternoon off, I took her over to the church, so we could talk with Rev. Just call me Barbara McGrail. Sarah Beth and Barbara were pretty comfortable together, and Sarah started telling about some of her feelings. It was pretty heavy, but I think it helped us all. One thing she encouraged us to do was that if someone discovered my secret identity, not to try to lie our way out of it, that would only get us into more trouble. We ate dinner together with the Camerons at Hope Haven. Roger is so excited about Saturday. I'm dreading it for a lot of reasons, but I guess I'm stuck doing it. After supper, Sarah Beth was tired enough we went upstairs to our room. We played cards. She played cards. I flossed my teeth. Another exciting day at Hope Haven. Friday, July 24th. I'm back in my Tigger bibs today. I try to help Roger and keep my eye on Sarah as Kevin works with her. She's back to the walker today. When I glance over, I notice that Kevin glances over at me. Around 10, it's time for a break. Grab a soda and come out to the courtyard with me, Annie, Kevin invited. I got one and followed him. There's a basketball hoop in the courtyard. Kevin picked up a ball. "Wanna play?" he asked. I hesitated. Everybody knew that Julie was a hoop hotshot. "I usually don't play when I have the long nails on, Kevin," I said. "We'll just play horse, then." "Just relax, Annie. We won't break a nail." He shot from the left corner, even with the basket. It bounced off. He tossed me the ball. I shot. It missed the rim. We moved. He hit. I missed. He hit. I missed. We both missed. He hit. I hit. He hit. I hit. I missed. He didn't gloat, he just kept looking at me. He got hoarse. I got hoe. He asked me to go to his office, and for Sarah Beth to join us. I was surprised when Sarah moved toward us on her walker. I had planned to go get her in the wheelchair. It gave me more time to worry as she slowly made her way across the floor. Finally, we both sat down, across the desk from Kevin. "You're not Julie Holding, are you?" he asked me. "Just because you beat me at horse, you think I'm not Julie?" I asked. "No, there's more." That just helped confirm it. "Remember Pam?" She remembered you. She asked if Julie Holding had another sister, maybe even a twin sister, because she saw your whole family at a restaurant. I knew that Julie and Sarah were the only kids in the family. Still, you could have been Julie, and the other girl a friend or a cousin. But it made me wonder. But since you've been such a good help here in PT, Annie, I really wanted you to be Julie. I wanted to help you with your education, and try to get you into studies to be a physical therapist. So yesterday I called Westland's College Phys Ed department. I wanted to see if we could work out a work-study plan between Westlands and the university here. When I called and told the basketball coach I wanted to talk with her about Julie Holding, she asked, "Do you want to talk with Julie?" She's in the building. So, Annie, you're not Julie. Who are you? I stammered. I prayed for an earthquake so the earth would swallow me. Or a tornado. What should I say? Barbara McGrail said I should tell the truth. But what would happen then? To me? To Sarah? I was surprised when Sarah spoke. Shy, quiet Sarah. She is Annie. He is Mark Andrew Jensen. He is saving my life, if you don't mind. Kevin's mouth fell open. He stared at me. You're a man. I had no idea. I thought you were maybe a cousin or a girlfriend. This makes it even worse. I'm sorry, I squeaked. We'll have to report this to Mrs. Verdugo and the Healing Partners director, Kevin said. I'm shocked, angry, and disappointed in you, Mike, or whatever she said your name was. And you too, Sarah. He started to reach for the telephone. And I'm disappointed in you for not even trying to understand what's going on here, Sarah shouted. I tried to shush her, but she wouldn't stop. Mark didn't agree to do this to shack up with me. He isn't a guy who puts on a dress to sneak into the girls' dorm. His becoming Annie was my idea. My parents are behind it. His parents are behind it. We agreed that if we did this, we wouldn't have sex, and we haven't. Do you think this is a game, a prank? Then you try getting your hair dyed and permed, your ears pierced, your eyebrows waxed, you try to live 6 weeks in fear of being ridiculed, laughed at, trying to be a believable girl just to help somebody else. It's harder work than you've ever done, believe me. Sarah, Miss Holding, now let me, Kevin was stammering now. My illness is this amputation, do you have any idea what that does to a family? They have so many thousands of dollars of bills because of me. If one of them came to stay here with me, we would have to sell our house to pay the bills, because either mom or dad would lose a job. So that left Julie. If she came, she would never get to college, and it would all be because of me. There's no way I could come here if I didn't get into that Hope Haven program. Then what would be left? I would have stayed home in my wheelchair, hoping my friends didn't come by, hoping the cancer would come back and take me. Annie, Mark, saved my life. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, I'm sorry. Kevin looked at me. Is she always like this? I shook my head. She's never like this. You just bring out the best in her. And Mark brings out the best in me, and so does Annie, Sarah said. I love Mark, and we're going to get married someday. I love Annie, too. Each step I've taken has been because of her. Okay, because of you, too, Kevin, and we appreciate that. But I don't feel bad about what we've done. Go ahead and call Mrs. Verdugo and whoever. I'll call my folks and have them come get us. She looked at me. And Annie, I'll explain it to the Camerons why you can't go on that date with Roger. Kevin frowned. Sarah, you don't understand. You don't have to go home. We can arrange for a room and a private nurse to help you with PT and chemo. It's just another week, but it's a very important week for both your health and your rehabilitation. No, you don't understand. Either I stay here with Annie, or I go home, my stubborn Sarah said. Kevin shook his head. I'll have to think about this a little. I will let you know of my decision on what to do before I tell anybody else. Come by this afternoon after your chemo and we'll talk. I suggested that he call Reverend McGrail, since she knew about our situation. He waved us away and plunked his chin down on his fists. As I rolled Sarah back across the street, we were both stunned and silent. We found a quiet place on the Hope Haven porch where we could have some privacy. You were really tough in there, Sarah Beth. I was proud of you, except I was so busy being scared spitless. But, did you mean that about going home if he turned us in? Sarah gulped. Yes. I really meant it. I really mean it. We didn't go in for lunch. We weren't hungry. I didn't know whether to pack or not. I didn't want for Sarah not to complete her program, but I could understand why she wouldn't want to be at the hospital by herself, without me, or her other friends from Hope Haven. She looked at me. Mark, I can't bear to think about how this is hurting you. What will happen if he reports us? Can we be arrested? Will it get in the news? It could ruin your life. Maybe it would be better if I had just stayed home. Honestly, Mark, don't you wish you would have had enough sense to say no to this stupid idea? Honestly, I'm unhappy that we've been caught, but I would do it all again, I said. We are so close now, in so many ways. If this was the only way I could get to be with you, sure, I'm not sorry. In some ways it's kind of fun being Annie, too. It's something not many boys get to experience. How many would want to, she asked. But I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I'm afraid, though. What will happen now? Kevin's a decent guy. He might figure he has to turn us in for breaking the rules, but I'm sure he'll try to keep it quiet. And even if it gets out, I can live with whatever comes. As long as I can be with you, anyway. I talked braver than I felt. Chemotherapy is always the low point of the week. What's fun about sitting around while people pump poison into patients? Today was worse than usual, because we were so anxious about what Kevin would do. Finally, we worked our way back to the physical therapy area. Kevin waved us into his office. I talked with Reverend McGrail, like you suggested. She was very persuasive and recommended that I let you stay on in the program. But if I don't report this and anybody discovers you and finds out that I knew about you, it could be my job. Sarah and I just sighed. We could see it coming. But if I do report it, I have great concern for what will happen to you both, and I'm not just responding to your threat to leave without completing your treatment, Miss Holding. So I will hold my breath and pretend I never found out about this scheme of yours, Miss Holding, or your true identity, Mr. Jensen? It's Jansen, sir. And thank you. For both of us. We really appreciate it. However, since you falsified information on your application form, Annie, Mark, I can't keep you in the volunteer program, and my offers of assistance on seeking a career in physical therapy no longer apply. I wanted to protest, because I had my heart set on that as a career. But I didn't. Sarah spoke up. Annie can still help with me, since she's my healing partner, can't she? Kevin agreed. And what about Roger? You know that he has a crush on Annie, and the only enthusiasm he shows for PT is when Annie helps him. Can't Annie help Roger on an informal basis, as a friend, not as a volunteer? Kevin nodded. I will inform Mrs. Cameron that Annie isn't an official volunteer anymore. If she asks for Annie to help with Roger on an informal basis, that will be up to you, Roger, and her. Thank you, I said. Yes, thank you, Sarah said. But do you mean that Mark can't apply to your program when he finishes high school, that you won't want him? That would be a big mistake. Mark is just as caring, just as smart, just as nice as Annie. He would make a wonderful physical therapist. And because of me, he has the motivation. You don't have to answer now, but I hope you'll reconsider. Sarah, I will have to think that one over. I didn't mean that Mark can't apply on his own merits when the time comes. I won't hold this against him, but he won't have an inside track like I was going to give Annie. Fair enough? I swallowed hard. More than fair, sir. Thank you. That's all I would expect. I took off the smock that female volunteers wear and handed it to him. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks.